Hello, everyone. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the part of the world. I would like to welcome you all to another yet interesting conversation, a roundtable discussion on youth intervention life on the Arctic. It's very important right now to talk about the climate change. It's very important right now to talk about the struggles our Earth is going through. So, to have this conversation with us today, we have Vadim, we have Eliza, we have Tatiana, and we have Dmitry. Vadim will be our moderator for today, and he's an expert committee member for the Foreign Affairs of the Youth Parliament of Russian Federation, and he handles the NGO team as a whole in Russia. So, welcome, Vadim. I would now like to hand the floor over to you to introduce everyone and take this conversation forward.
Changemaker 20 summits for inviting us to speak about Dmitry, hello. Also, I'd like to say thank you for Connecting Dreams, for creating this fantastic summit. We have to discuss Arctic right now. Now, Arctic region is very important for us. Of course, we have 8 countries around the Arctic, but effects of Arctic region goes on all our planet. Thousands and thousands square kilometers in Arctic region. 4 million people live there. We have to discuss this about this region, not but on all our world. Function of the North Sea route, and it's operating all year round. It's delivering the goods from Asia to Europe. That region is going very, very fast. Development of the North Sea Way will develop the coastal infrastructure. And of course, it's very good for industrial development, but let's look from other angles. Arctic region is the litmus paper for climate change. The impact of climate change in the Arctic to encourage compliance with the Paris Agreement and support stronger global measures to reduce greenhouse gases and short-lived climate pollutions. While strengthening circumpolar cooperation on climate science and observation, reduction of emission, climate change mitigation, adaptation and resilience, and exchange of knowledge and innovation technologies in support of these efforts. Melting ice can change ocean currents. We can to collect the data and predict the future that impact on many countries. Change the life not only for people who live there, but also decrease the equilibrium between industrial and technological development and sustainable development goals. At the region, of course, we can discuss about development, about mining, about North Sea Way, but look on indigenous hunters and hunters living on the land and city dwellers. Around 10% of the inhabitants are indigenous, and many of their peoples distinct activities and the context on an ever-changing world. Yes, the Arctic environment changes, so the livelihoods, cultures, traditions, languages, and identities of indigenous peoples and other communities have to be saved. In Arctic affects inhabitants in various ways. Arctic communities are already facing challenges that result from the impact of climate change, demonstrating the need for action to strengthen resilience and facilitate adaptation. At the same time, the Arctic offers potential for sustainable economic development that both brings benefits to local communities and other ground of innovation transcending the region. The new opportunities for local people, not culture, but also new knowledges. So the local children can go to school online and personally. They choose go to the institute and find a job at the big life by the same way of hunters and fishermen, or maybe to develop the touristic business. We have to focus on equal education that can have to be given to local people and people who goes there regions of the and focus on the sustainable development goals, life on the earth, climate change, energy solution and technologies, and enhanced energy efficiency in the Arctic to reduce the effects of climate change. So we have to discuss all of that topics, and I'm sure our speakers understand regions. Tatiana personally from that region, and she can give us all information from the region from the first line. Dmitry and Elizaveta focus on the Arctic because they are part of the research center focus on Arctic. So I'd like to give the floor to Tatiana. I'm sure Tatiana will focus on SDG number 4, equal education, on education, but also on the culture. Music, also the part of the health programs. So, Tatiana, float.
All right, Saneli, thank you so much. So, dear colleagues, I also would like not just to tell you about our project, but also I want to show you some presentation. So, welcome. I'm very glad to have a speech all together today. So, and as part of my speech, I will have a talk about federal project that was created in small town in Murmansk region. This project has received wide recognition and its implementation became possible thanks to the indifference of young people, specialists who came to live and work in the Russian north. The next slide, please. But first of all, it's important to talk in general about the implementation of youth policy in the Kola-Pola region. So, Murmansk region is a strategically important region of the Russian Arctic. It has a border with 2 Scandinavian countries, and the Kola Bay is an ice-free port and one of the most powerful military formations where the Northern Fleet is based. So from this, the character of the population is formed mainly from young people. Therefore, we pay much attention in the region to sphere of youth policy. The next slide, please. For the successful life of young people, we need a modern infrastructure. The pride of the region is a network of youth space under the Sopki brand. The cultural space, container hall, modern libraries, and others. The next one, please. In 2015, the author of the project, pianist, teacher, laureate of international competitions, Anna Grishko, moved with her family from her native town, St. Petersburg. Yes, she moved with her husband to a military town in the Kola-Pola region. And of course, it's always impossible to compare big cities like St. Petersburg with small towns. And Usually we have such situation when in big cities some some big things become commonplace. For example, it's an opportunity to attend the concert with outstanding musicians or get an advice from eminent professor at conservatory. Yes, it's common in big cities, but in small towns it's usually impossible, right? But in other hand, we have similar things in small town too. For example, young people move to live and study in large cities. Yes, and we have quite difficult weather conditions in polar region. So such conditions like frequent snowfalls, winds, and much more. So all these limits, so all these reasons, yes, usually limits an opportunity to visit the largest town of the region, town Murmansk. That's why it's impossible, no matter what, that the children from any even smallest town have the similar opportunities with their peers from large cities. Next slide, please. Okay, the goal of our project is provide young people with access to new knowledge under the guidance of eminent musician teachers of Russian Federation who comes directly to small towns and give free master classes as well as concerts for citizens. Next slide, please. I want to tell about the structure of our project. So it's a long-term project. It consists of a series of master classes in 6 months in 6 major specialists in music. So it allows experts to track the dynamic of the students' professional growth, which means that experts already can give their career guidance, advice, and all this will work for the turn for a long period, yes, for the region to make their own technical stuff. Also, in the project boundaries, we publish textbooks with musical material of local authors, yes, and all these textbooks, they are transferred free for charge in all cultural institutions. And it's important that our funds are replenished with new modern literature, which can be used mainly by generations of Northerners. Also, in our project, I want to mention a large all-Russian festival in memory of Tatiana Krylova, the founder of the professional academic piano school of the Kola region. In this festival, all Russian piano competition under the age of 19 years old is held. It is a serious 2-round competition, the uniqueness of which is absence of any fees for participants. The first round of this competition is correspondence. The second round is full-time and take place in the large hall of Murmansk Regional Philharmonic. The festival has the unique prizes, such as an opportunity to perform with the symphony orchestra on the stage of the Moscow Conservatory. Also, all participants of the event will have free individual master classes from the jury members. The festival takes place every 2 years, and this year brought together participants from 11 regions of the Russian Federation. We also hold sessional creative schools for various instruments, where everything for children is completely free of charge, including the road to St. Petersburg from Murmansk region, accommodation, and so on. Next slide, please. Okay, the project is adapted to a wide audience. For example, We have a series of concerts for kindergarten students where we introduce them to musical instruments, genres of music, and then many children go to music schools to study. Next slide, please. I also want to mention that within the framework of our masterclass, eminent professors, yes, pupils. As a rule, such children move to study to other cities, to the conservatory, and do not return to their town or region. And a lot of learners who perhaps do not so show their ability so brightly, but they really love playing music very much, and they attend classes honestly. After graduating from music colleges, such learners will return to their native township or village, and they will continuously teach at local music schools, and thereby will not let it die due to the lack of teaching staff. Next slide, please. Our project meets the key goals and objectives of the development of our state, which are prescribed in various legal documents of the regional and federal levels. And as I said, it works for the long term thanks to an integrated approach and the term of professionals, which includes people with higher specialized education. Our project has already gone beyond the musical sphere. At the request of the participants, we hold theoretical events of young people of all categories, from pupils of kindergartens to young scientists. We hold conference, lecture cycles about musical arts, as well as lectures about building a career trajectory for young people, from young and successful young people, with the concept of young to young. Events were held in the Presidential Library, in Murmansk Regional Duma, and other places. Also, we held the conference about the results of distance musical education, and was the first such conference in Russian Federation where the topic was touched upon. And the participants were more than 200 people from 10 regions in Russian Federation. Over the years of implementation, the project has shown its effectiveness. Let me give you a vivid example. Children with special needs always participate in our project. So, in the first season of competition, participated a girl from a small town, and she was playing the violin. This girl, yes, she dreamt of entering a music college, but she had a hand defect. Fused fingers on the hand that holds the bow. When a well-known violinist came as a part of our project with masterclass, she gave this girl a good advice, yes, to go to a viola classes. So this girl entered this class, and nowadays she is finishing it now and already plays in orchestra. Yes. And according the results of the first season, so this picture of the concert, yes, according in our project, this concert was held in honor with Maria, with greatest Russian artist Maria Lutko, in honor of Year of Memory and Glory. And also I can say that our project was awarded many awards and entered the top 100 best project in Russia. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your listening.
pictures 200 children. Tell us more about their equal education and how many local people. Students from our academy and very good scientist, Dmitry. Yes, and your knowledge about Arctic region and about the view of the young generation, how to keep opportunities to stay there and develop at the region. So, floor to you.
My presentation will be about Arctic cities as centers of attraction for young people, which was prepared by a group of students from the West Institute of Management of the Russian Academy of National Economy and Public Administration. They are initiative group of students that deals with the subject of the Arctic in various fields, both in the field of international relations and in other areas. The next slide, please. The population of the Arctic in numbers and types of Arctic cities, more than half of the population of the Arctic live in Russian Arctic. At the same time, almost half of the Arctic cities are Russian. It is in Russia that the largest Arctic city of Murmansk is located, where about 200,000 people live in. There are 4 types of Arctic cities. K multifunctional university centers. It is in the next slide. Peripheral administrative centers, suburban cities of different specialization, and remote industrial centers. Cities of the first type, as a rule, have the status of a national or regional capital, their own university. The second type is regional capitals that do not have their own independent university. The cities of the third group are mainly concentrated around the cities of the first type. And finally, the fourth type is remote cities that do not have either capital status or an independent university. The next slide, please. The difference between the settlements of the Arctic in general and the Russian one, in particular from the settlement network of the temperature zone, can be characterized by some basic features. The first feature of the Arctic is that there are no large cities in it. The population of the largest cities in the region does not exceed from 300,000 people. This circumstance does not allow the application of natural principles of spatial policy in the Arctic, focused primarily on supporting large urban agglomerations. The second feature is that urban population of the Arctic is very concentrated. In fact, Arctic urbanization is a piece of local urban systems. In total, 5 urban systems have developed around the largest urban centers of the Arctic, make up more than half of the official urban population of the Arctic. There are Arkhangelsk, Murmansk, Anchorage, Norilsk, and Reykjavik. The third feature, which further enhances the effect of the second, is that the largest Arctic cities are located along the southern border of the Arctic. And the fourth feature of the Arctic is the instability of the population of cities and the large scope of migration, an increased share of both entering and leaving. And the fifth specific feature relates to the Russian Arctic. The Russian specificity of the Arctic cities against the backdrop of the global Arctic lies precisely in the narrow specialization. A lot of Russian Arctic cities specialize only on one field. And the next slide, please. The biggest problem of Russian Arctic cities from the point of view of an ordinary person is that the city does not provide part of its natural opportunities to citizens. In such cities, the recreational sector is poorly developed, the economic potential is weak, and worst of all, residents perceive such city not as a place of permanent residence, but as a place of work and nothing more. Arctic single industry towns are the most vulnerable in this regard, since harsh climatic conditions greatly complicate the construction of buildings, the development of transport, and other infrastructures. The tourism potential of such cities is also very small. The lower service sector compared to non-Arctic cities also does not contribute to the retention of the population. The development of single industry towns into full field cities is a difficult and expensive business, and it is necessary to attract the population, which will remain to live on a permanent basis. And we will consider the main problems in greater details using the example of two Russian Arctic cities, Vorkuta and Norilsk. Case of Vorkuta. Vorkuta is a personification of one of the main problems of Russian Arctic industrial cities. Dependence on city-forming enterprises, in which the life expectancy of the city depends either on the depletion of the deposit or on the demand for the city-forming enterprise. One of the reasons for the outflow of the population was the monoprofile specialization of city. This provoked a number of negative cases. Territories were vacated, the taxable base decreased, revenues to local budget decreased. At the same time, the burden on them increased since it became necessary to maintain an empty municipal housing stock.
To conclusion, your idea from the view of the young generation.
I can highlight our
2 sentences.
General recommendations for the cities of Russian Arctic. So it need to be develop existing facilities and enterprises, the potential of which is not fully disclosed. It's need to be an improvement of infrastructure and beautification of the Arctic cities, saving on maintaining unclaimed infrastructure. And we need to provide, our government actually need to provide more social support measures to the population of Arctic cities involved in the city's economy. So that's all. Thank you.
For Russian government, but for all governments and all states from the Arctic region, because we have the same problems, and young people moves from that region to the center of states where they think more money and more attractive. That's why I saw in one of your pictures that when you explain us the situation in the mono city, that it's better not just develop the mining but also touristic area, because it supports also the local tribes and local history and local traditions. So please, Elizaveta, floor to you. Elizaveta is the teacher of Dmitry, and we are from the same.
Yeah. Hello, dear colleagues. Can you hear me? Is it okay with the sound?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So let me start. And my report will be extremely short. Maybe it will be a kind of addition for the things that previous speaker has said. I would like to say a couple of words about the openness and the popularity of Arctic region, because as a teacher I have a specific course dedicated to international processes in the Arctic region, and the matter is that the majority of my students have an impression that Russia is an Arctic state, Russia is a part of Arctic region, but it is a surprise for them that Arctic is also a part of Russia, and you know that 10% of Russian GDP comes from Arctic area, and the majority of Arctic population are citizens of Russian Federation. So this question is essentially and vitally important for Russia, the question of Arctic. But the rest of Russian people have too little or even no any impression about Russian region, because at least maybe some of us visited Murmansk or Teribirka in last years thanks to COVID-19 pandemic. They received an opportunity to visit cities in our own country. But to tell the truth, this kind of tourism is very expensive. And it is very difficult in Arctic circumstances, in Arctic natural conditions, to make it accessible for ordinary people. And even if we are talking about European part of Russian Arctic, there are such cities like Murmansk and Arkhangelsk located. It will be very expensive for ordinary people, especially for family tourism, because if we're talking about family, we need to make it for the price 4 or 5 times bigger. So this is not about group tourism or family tourism. It's about individual tourism for, I think, rich people. And it's very sad because some young people not frequently not rich can receive knowledge about Arctic region, about its nature, about its tradition, about small indigenous people. Surely, partially, we can give such an information to them by different educational projects, by videos, by sessions, by conference like this. But it is not enough. It's insufficient because one time to see it's better than 100 times to listen. When they're talking about Asian part of Arctic, the situation became even more difficult because long distances, poor infrastructure, heavy natural condition makes tourism in this part of Arctic even less accessible than in the European part. I have a friend. She is an assistant of captain on icebreaker, and we discussed the possibility to visit North Pole. Right now, for our foreign colleagues, it will be interesting. The cost of such, the price of such tour will be about 2.5 million Russian rubles, or 26,000 euros. So it's a price of a small flat or country house in central part of Russia. The second thing that I want to admit here is about educational projects. It's a great opportunity for young people, for pupils or students who study biology, geography, meteorology, and other natural disciplines to visit Arctic with the volunteer movements, with educational programs, with internships. But you know, we have not such a big amount of such students in Russia. And this is also very sad, because if I'm, for instance, ordinary student from a humanitarian university or a school guy, and I want to have a bit of romantic to see North Pole, White Bears, but my parents are not rich enough to pay for it, I just will lose such an opportunity. Maybe to conclude, yes, maybe we can organize some university network, some summer camps for people who are not a specialist in Arctic region, but maybe they just want to learn more about this outstanding, exciting, very interesting part of Russia, because everything becomes from interest. Thank you.
Sorry, Elizaveta. I think it's a good idea, and I understand it's this problem, and we have to raise this topic not only here but also on the regional levels and state levels. We have to discuss the donation for the development of tourism. Because without donations from the government and without special programs, we can't.
Yes, it's almost impossible.
People have money on just go to raise the dump and goes on the car, but it's very, very difficult. You can go just to Murmansk. You far to the North Pole, and special programs can help us. This topic, and we have to popularize the Arctic region, because Arctic region is very important for the whole planet, because it's an indicator of climate change. Check the data with the changing of the understand the clarity of air and clarity of the ocean or biodiversity. And Dead Sea in Israel, but we don't need it's good when we use it there homeland, not just for the Arctic region and of all sustainable development goals, just region. Our sessions, and I think more summits like Changemaker summits will raise that solution. So thank you. I can say thank you so much for all panelists and all speakers, all participants. Of course, thank you so much for the host, Sonali. Thank you so much personally. And thanks so much for Connecting Dreams and Changemaker 20 Summit. Hope to see all participants on other sessions. And thank you for Arctic.
So much. Thank you so much, Vadim. Thank you so much to all the other speakers. I think it's very important to bring such issues, such topics on a platform like these, because we never talk about these things. Before some time, even I didn't knew about the problems in Arctic, and I had an amazing conversation with Vadim where he guided me that there's this part in Russia, the Arctic region, which is being it's going from our hand, and it's important to save it. These conversations are important. Thank you so much to all the speakers about their experiences. I loved the way this roundtable turned out. Tatiana talked about how she's engaging with youth through music. Elizaveta talk about how important it is to work on this region, and Dmitry also gave a view of what the problems in Arctic look like. So thank you so much to all of our speakers for taking out time